Lately, I've been playing a lot of sim racing games, and while my setup is decent in terms of wheel and pedals, there's always one thing that has bugged me. Every time I want to change a setting, I need to either look at my keyboard, remember which key I have it assigned to, then press it, or look inside of the menu, which is distracting, and I often miss my breaking points because of it. But I have somewhere a paper that says that I'm pretty good at electronics. So today, let's try to engineer a solution. My name is Andrea, and today we are building a sim racing button box. Let's get started. Once I had the basic concept, I just had to select which functions I wanted on it. So I just took a blank OneNote document and started jotting down ideas and marking which features I wanted. My main sim right now is Le Mans Ultimate, so I just try to think about every setting, every setup change that I do during a lap, and integrate all of them inside the box so that I don't have to touch my keyboard at all while I'm playing. As you can see, I structured it in 3 parts. The first one is the switches. So there are functions that you set, and then they stay in their position until you set them. That's, for example, I chose windshield wipers and headlights. Then you have the buttons. That is, you press it once, it activates, press it another time, it deactivates, and doesn't have to stay in the position. And the third one is settings. So it's things where you need to be able to change up and down inside of a selected range. That's, for example, brake bias, or things like that.
As you can see, there are a lot of settings, so the way I decided to approach that is that I would group them in functional groups, for example, brake, traction control, etc. And took those rotary selectors, so each selector is one group, and then for each group I have one of the switches that let me go up or down the setting. For the buttons, I chose these because they are colorful and I like them. As always for my projects, I'll start by looking for CAD models of the components that I chose. Thankfully here, most of it was available on sites like GrabCAD. So here is the toggle switch, here are the rotary ones, and here are the push buttons. The only thing that I had to design myself was the Raspberry Pi Pico. Because I'm using a clone and not the official one, dimensions are slightly different, so I just had to quickly make my own to have a dimensionally accurate model to be able to design off. So I started at first with the front panel, by just playing around with positions of switches, until I was happy with the layout. To note as well is that the design is pretty much fully parametric. So here in the parameter functions of Fusion 360, you can for example choose to have 6 rotary switches and the design will adapt to it. It's not perfect and it starts to break down a bit when using big numbers, but for basic personalization it can be good. And obviously, the design files are available down in the description below. To hold it firmly, I also added 4 screw holes so that I'll be able to fix it to the main box later. The main body is pretty easy. I just extruded walls around the front panel, then added a bottom to close it off, a few pillars to fix the front panel, as well as to fix the electronics inside, which I then added. The USB-C port gets a hole, a few fillets everywhere, a few chamfers everywhere, and finally 2 holes on the bottom for mounting the desk later. To remember which function is on which button, I made this magnetically attached front panel. As you can imagine, it's very easy to swap, and I made that so I can just change the front panel when I change games, and the button assignation changes as well. It's gonna be printed in 2 colors, so up until the text, bottom it's gonna be in black, and then in white. That way, the text will be easily readable, or at least that's what I hope. I have not tested that yet. To mount the box to the desk, I have remixed this G-clamp that I found on Thingiverse to use a dovetail connector. That way I can swap between all my button boxes without needing to print multiple times the connector. The link is in the description below.
Okay, so here as you can see I have printed the main part, that is the box, to which I have added 8 threaded inserts. And here is the front panel. So I have also made this little circuit board, for now just a Raspberry Pi on it. And good news, I received all the switches from China today. So now let's get to assembly. I have just printed the faceplate, as you see 2 colors, below is black, top is white. Unfortunately I think the text is just a little too small, it's not showing up well. And for example here I cannot increase the size much more. So I think I'm gonna class this as a failure for now. If you have any ideas how I can make that work, or a system similar to it work, please let me know in the comments. Okay, as you can see I have finished assembly of the switches on the front panel. I'm just gonna check for the LEDs and then it's gonna be wiring. Let's go. Okay guys, so here you can see I have done the ground, so all the commands are together, going to these 3 that I'm gonna connect to the PCB later. Now I just have to make the signal connections. Let's go. Okay, so after enough soldering for a lifetime, it should be done. So now I just have to plug it in and start to program it.
Installing the firmware is very easy. You're gonna go down in the description, there's a link to this GitHub page. So you're just gonna have to clone or download the zip file for all the thing. Once you have that on your computer, the main file is here. It's biaspanel.ino, opens with the Arduino IDE. You're gonna also need the RP2040 core by Earl Philauer. So I have linked a way to download that. Once you have that, there is an optional step to make a custom name. It is a bit more involved, but I think it's pretty cool. So the way it works, inside of your Arduino file system, there is the Earl Philauer package that you just downloaded. The path is this one, I have linked it as well. There is a file called boards.txt, where inside is a lot of info on a lot of boards that are inside of this package. So I have made a custom one inside of my GitHub, boards.txt, you're gonna have to copy and paste all of this inside of the original one. And if you want to change the name, there is here, you can change the name, that's the display name, it's gonna show on Windows. If it doesn't work, you might want to change as well those two numbers, so USB vendor ID and USB product ID. Windows actually does not recognize different names from the one it has already saved. So if you want to change the name again, you need to change one of those numbers or both. Inside of the Urfil package, you have a variants folder. You want to check your variant, so for me it's the VCC GND, and you want to just copy and paste this folder and rename it to YRC bias panel VCC GND. The programming is fairly easy, I won't go into too much detail, but I used inside of the Phil core for the Raspberry Pi Pico, there is thankfully a joystick library that makes it really easy. So it's just a case of initializing some pins and variables, and then I have a few loops to check, so that's for the buttons. So you just check if the button is pressed and you press the virtual button inside of the computer. Pretty much the same for the switches. And then from the selectors, I have, so that is for determining which position each selector is in, and then which button you have to press when you hold up or down the switch to change the settings. Then you can plug in your board via USB-C. As you can see here, I have already selected it. So you need to select the board. So for me, it's the bias panel that I've just created. If you don't want to change the name, it's the one you have. And then the COM port. And then just click upload. And that will do its thing for a few seconds. As you can see now, I have opened a USB testing app called Joystick Test. So now you can see that I have my YRC bias panel that shows with all the current buttons. And for example here, the switches, you can see it changes, the buttons, it presses accordingly. And so everything is working as it should. And that means we're ready to bind that inside of a game.
I have played a few hours with it now, and I have a few final thoughts I wanted to share with you. So the main thing that I would do differently is the front panel. Obviously it did not work the way I wanted it to, I'm still looking for a solution to that. But overall, it went really well. There's just two things that do not work quite the way I had planned to. So that's mostly a game issue, but here, the three position switches, you cannot bind in the Ultimate on, off, auto, it's one button to toggle between them all. And as well the lap target plus and minus, you can't bind them. But that's not a problem on my side, it's a game side issue, and the rest is working really well. So with that, I want to thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next project. Thank you.